Welcome back to the Lovin Dubai show. We're now joined by an author who wrote the first children's book about two sisters, one of whom has Down syndrome, and it was inspired by her relationship with her own sister. Welcome to the show, Nawal Benzaouia. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you to you to inviting me.
Not at all. So this is a book, we're going to get into it, that you've written. But first of all, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to write this book?
Okay, so basically I have a little sister with Down syndrome and with no hair. And through my life, a lot of people made fun of her. They call her monster. And every time when I was working with her, they say, oh my God, look at this girl. She has no hair. She's quite weird. She doesn't walk like us. And it's really affected me because for me, my sister didn't look any different because I didn't really know that she has Down syndrome. So basically through my life, I just understood that if people were saying that she looks like a monster, it's because they don't know what is Down syndrome. We don't really educate them. We don't really tell them who are people of determination, what kind of disability they can have. So I believe that education is really important. And I wanted to show in my book that a sister can be with Down syndrome and can do a lot of things also.
It's really nice. Can you give everyone who's watching today just a little bit of background? What is Down syndrome?
So basically, Down syndrome is a genetic condition. You have one chromosome in the 21 pair, and it can be associated to other kind of disability. In the case of my sister, she had a leukemia, and then she lost all her hair. That's why today she's with no hair. And there is no typical people with Down syndrome because everyone is unique and different. Some of them can go to the university, some of them can read and write, but for my sister it's quite different because she couldn't do all of that.
So, and when you were growing up, is there anything that you wished you knew about Down syndrome? You know, this book didn't exist and we want to educate people today. So when you were growing up, it was a different time. What do you wish you knew about Down syndrome then?
I wish that I knew that people with Down syndrome can do everything and they shouldn't be treated as someone different. I wish that I knew that it's a condition, but it doesn't mean that life is not really accessible for them and we can build things. I wish that at school we didn't only teach us about the genetic condition, but also about how we can adapt and how our environment can adapt to people with Down syndrome.
So at what point did you decide that writing a book was the best way to educate people?
To be honest, it's a funny story because I love to read. I have plenty of books at home, and I realized that all of these books, and especially illustrated book, there is no book that have a character like looks my sister. So one day I start to draw and to talk to my sister, and I contacted an illustrator and I just asked him, oh, can you draw my sister? Then the first illustration come up. And through my life I live a lot of adventure, as I like to call them, and I always have a notebook with me. So I start to write stories that I can live with my sister and all the adventure and make it as a fairy tale. And then I just said, okay, maybe it's time to write a book. And my friend pushed me, and my husband also. They were like, Nawal, you're always writing a lot of things in your notebook. It has to be alive at some point.
Yeah.
And then I just showed the first illustration to my little sister. And the first thing that she said is, thank you. So it really touched me, and I felt like, okay, now I'll just have to continue. So I sent my manuscript to publishing house, and they just loved it. So then the story began.
Amazing, because what I love about this book is it's not an obvious educational piece, which obviously it is in the background, but it's at the heart of it, it's a fairy tale.
Yes.
So tell us about the fairy tale.
So basically, the two sisters are living in the Mushi kingdom, and their parents forbade them to go outside the castle. But one day, the parents, who are the Poro, decided to go to find a cure for Grace, the little sister with Down syndrome, and they didn't come back. So after a few years being in the castle, the two sisters decided to go out of the castle. And this is where their adventure starts. They are going on their way to the Sierra forest and meeting animals, people, and all of them, all individual as different, and they are learning about all of these animals.
It's amazing. I love how when you said you showed it to your sister, she said thank you. When did you launch, and like what's the general reaction of the public been like since you brought it to the people?
It's been less than a month that it had been launched officially, and most of the time they are like, let's say the people that are close to me are very surprised and already recognized my sister, whereas the other one didn't feel any different. They're like, oh, the sister are having beautiful adventure. In the book, there is a story about a wolf without arms, and I have people saying, oh my God, this story is so touchy. It reminds me this and that. It reminds me when I first met one people of determination in a wheelchair, and I thought that it could not do a lot of things. And yes, basically people are quite happy, and I'm also very surprised because the stories inside that I loved are not people's favorite, actually.
Really?
It's the complete opposite. They're like, okay, Nawal, we love the story with the wolf. Or I have also plenty of kids that are texting me on Instagram, or they're saying, oh, actually I met a girl without hair, and because of Grace, now I know that it's normal and it can happen.
Amazing. And writing it, did you come across any kind of, I guess, challenges writing about people with Down syndrome? Was there any difficulties along the way before you were able to publish it?
Let's say that the difficulty, in my book, I didn't want to mention that the little girl Grace is with Down syndrome. So the difficulty was like, okay, to touch kids and to let them understand that the difference of various kind of disability without mentioning it. Because as you said, it's a fairy tale. I know that most of the time when we try to read a book that can educate us on many topics, it can be boring for kids because, you know, their attention and they are more going toward fairy tales, toward animals. So this was the challenge.
It's beautiful. It's a fairy tale celebrating diversity.
Yes, exactly.
And it's an amazing story for kids all over the world should be able to read it. How can people get in touch with you if they have any comments, and how can they buy the book?
Oh, they can buy it. They can find it on Amazon. It's available, and it's also, they can just write Maya and Grace, the tale of the girl with no hair. And if they want to get in contact with me, they just can contact me through my Instagram, or I will be available.
It's so important that you've written this book. And when I was reading about the background notes, it's the first ever book that's written?
Yes.
Which is amazing.
Because most of the time we have books talking about Down syndrome and not the story of the sister, so the sibling point of view.
Exactly.
Or what. Because sometimes we are a bit left in the corner. We forgot about us. We are talking about the parents, or the struggle is difficult, but what about us? What about the siblings? Because being with an individual with Down syndrome and seeing, oh, misconception of disability are in the daily life, so we forgot about siblings. And we have also a lot of things to say. So yes, it's the first book talking about a little girl with Down syndrome without hair, and also about the point of view of her sister.
So interesting, and it's so important. So if parents can consider the siblings as well,
yes.
It's such an important topic. So thank you so much for writing the book and bringing it here with us today. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about this fairy tale.
Not at all, guys. A beautiful fairy tale. That is all we have time for in the Lovin Dubai show today. That was Nawal Benzaouia. Really appreciate your time, and we'll see you tomorrow morning, same time, same place. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.